On this episode of the Hockey Nuts, we review the Rangers and the Bruins' great performances over the past week. Then we discuss all of the hockey headlines over the past week, including injuries to Steven Stamkos and Johnny Gaudreau, the GM meetings, and the Hall of Fame induction ceremonies. We also discuss our weekly power rankings of NHL teams. We'll have all this, plus some college hockey talk, the KHL Minute, and our picks of the week coming up next. This is the Hockey Nuts Podcast, Season 1, Episode 15, recorded on Wednesday, November 16, 2016. Tuukka's Big Week.
Shut up and sit down.
Like Zuccarello and Miller did. Miller was open on that post now. Zuccarello draws a penalty as Nugent Hopkins took him down. Delayed call, brought it to the bench, and the Rangers get the extra skater. And it's Hayes. Waits, slides it across for Miller, back for Hayes. That one toward the net, they score! Oh, what a terrific pass in front! And Dan Girardi redirects it home, and the Rangers lead it 2-0.
41.4 to go at Pepsi Center. 1-0 Boston leads. McQuaid, the tap to the far corner. Moore lifts it out with an empty net in the Colorado end. Tyson Barrie holds off Krejci, who chips it loose. Moore scores! Dominic Moore from center ice into an empty net. David Krejci has a multi-point night, and the Bruins are gonna beat the Colorado Avs.
Controlled along the boards, a four-man tie-up. It's dug out by Jordan Stahl and back out. Jordan in control, Dalbec at his side, he's got it. Plus Dalbec, a tip wide by Stahl. Played well in this first period. Aho, Teravainen, Stahl, what a save! They score! First goal in the National Hockey League for Sebastian Aho.
What a moment!
Hello and welcome to another episode of the Hockey Nuts Podcast. My name is Wayne. I'm here with Steve. How's it going today, Steve?
It's going great, Wayne. Good to be with you.
All right. We got both of our teams had a really good week this week.
Yes, they did.
But before we get into that, I want to talk a little bit about Hell Week as it is in our business. As some of you may know, I work in the grocery industry, and if you worked or have ever worked in a grocery store, we are about to go on Hell Week at work. There's no other way to describe it. The week leading up to Thanksgiving is just a crazy, crazy week. We're way understaffed for the amount of business that we're going to do. So if you folks go to a grocery store during the days leading up to Thanksgiving, be nice to your grocery store people. They are having the worst week of the year. I guarantee it. And other than that, it's been a pretty quiet week. How about you?
Yeah, well, with our business supplying the grocery stores, I'll be working Sunday, Monday. This coming week, next week is going to be, a long week for me. But we're looking forward to it. And, we get Thanksgiving and the day after off, so I'm very happy about that. I get to spend time with my family.
Yeah, that's the one thing we're looking forward to. Although I'm not going to, I found out today, I think I'm going to be working Thanksgiving Day, but that's all right. My daughter is too. She's a college student, so she's looking to make as much money as possible, and the place she works at pays her double time. So she's excited.
Cool.
She's excited to work Thanksgiving Day, and we don't usually eat till later in the day anyway. So. Yeah. So, and I'll probably be working a good chunk of the weekend anyway. But anyway, let's move on to another thing that happened to me this week. Last weekend, or actually election night as it was, my daughter and I were hearing these reports about all these, the Canadian immigration website was down for most of the night, election night. Mm-hmm. And her and I this past weekend, she was home. We decided to just take a look at the website to see what it was all about. So we went on there. And I found this little questionnaire saying, hey, take this questionnaire to see if you are a Canadian citizen. So I said, well, might as well. My mom was born in Canada, so why not? So I took the thing. They ask a bunch of questions. Were you born in Canada? No. Were you, have you ever lived in Canada? No. And then one of the questions was, do you have a parent that was born in Canada before a certain, I can't remember what date it was. It was a certain date in 1947. And I'm like, well, I got to answer yes to that because she was born in 44 and she was born in Canada. So so I went on, finished out the questionnaire. It comes to the end of the questionnaire and it says, you are probably a Canadian.
Holy smokes.
So I'm like, wow. So apparently I can easily, or much easier than regular Americans anyway, immigrate to Canada if I wanted to.
Oh my gosh. That's that's
just by having one parent that was born Canadian.
I don't know what to say on that. The money situation there is a little different.
Yeah.
But hockey situation is a little different too, so
the spotlight's a little hotter in Canada for hockey.
Yeah, that's right. I guess it depends on where you'll be,
Yeah. And hey, I have valuable job skills that are valuable to Canadians. I can drive a Zamboni, and I can build an outdoor ice rink if I needed to. So I could get a job working in any indoor or outdoor arena.
Yes, you could. Yes, you could. And they need people like you. That's up to you, man.
Yeah. So anyway, all joking aside, let's get on to hockey news from the past week. Before we get into the hockey talk, let's go ahead and review all of the scores that have happened over the past week. Going back to November 10th, that was a Thursday night. There were 10 games around the NHL. And in the first game, the Bruins beat the Blue Jackets 5-2. The Canadiens beat the Kings 4-1. The Ducks beat the Hurricanes 4-2. The Wild upended the Penguins 4-2. The Red Wings beat the Canucks 3-1. The Lightning upended the Islanders 4-1. The Sharks doubled up the Panthers 4-2. The Predators beat the Blues 3-1. The Stars doubled up the Flames 4-2. And in the final game of the night, the Jets beat the Coyotes 3-2. On Friday, November 11th, there were 6 games around the NHL. And in the first game, the Oilers lost to the Stars 3-2. The Devils beat the Sabres in overtime 2-1. The Maple Leafs doubled up the Flyers 6-3. The Senators edged the Kings 2-1. The Capitals beat the Blackhawks in overtime 3-2. And in the final game of the night, the Avalanche edged the Jets 3-2 in overtime. On Saturday, November 12th, 2016, there were 11 games around the NHL. The Bruins edged the Coyotes 2-1. The Rangers beat the Flames 4-1. The Canadiens beat the Red Wings 5-0. The Hurricanes dominated the Capitals 5-1. The Sharks edged the Lightning 3-1. The Panthers beat the Islanders in overtime 3-2. The Devils beat the Sabres 4-2. The Flyers beat the Wild 3-2. The Penguins beat the Maple Leafs 4-1. The Blue Jackets doubled up the Blues 8-4. And in the final game of the night, the Predators shut out the Ducks 5-0. On Sunday, November 13th, there were 6 games around the NHL. And in the first game, the Bruins shut out the Avalanche 2-0. The Rangers beat the Oilers 3-1. The Blackhawks edged the Canadiens 3-2. The Jets beat the Kings in a shootout 3-2. The Canucks beat the Stars in overtime 5-4. The Wild beat the Senators in overtime 2-1. On Monday, November 14th, 2016, there was just 1 game in the NHL, and the Lightning shut out the Islanders in that game 4-0. And on November 15th, 2016, there were 13 games around the NHL. The Ducks beat the Oilers 4-1. The Rangers beat the Canucks 7-2. The Panthers beat the Canadiens in overtime 4-3. The Hurricanes shut out the Sharks 1-0. The Senators beat the Flyers 3-2 in a shootout. The Blue Jackets beat the Capitals in overtime 2-1. The Lightning beat the Red Wings 4-3. The Maple Leafs beat the Predators 6-2. The Blues beat the Sabres 4-1. The Flames shut out the Wild 1-0. The Devils beat the Stars in overtime 2-1. The Avalanche beat the Kings 4-1. And in the final game of the night, the Jets shut out the Blackhawks 4-0. And on Wednesday, November 16th, our final night of the week, there were 2 games around the NHL. The Capitals destroyed the Penguins 7-1. And in overtime, the Flames beat the Coyotes 2-1. And that was all the games that occurred over the past week around the NHL. And as always, if there are other leagues that you would like us to read scores for you, by all means, get in touch with the show at feedback@thehockeynuts.com, and we'll be happy to add the scores for your favorite league to this segment. Now, back to the show. And
Yes,
as
sir.
always, we will go ahead and start with our personal team's performances. And if you want to go ahead and start with the Rangers, they had a pretty good week.
The Rangers had a great week. I was not able to watch the game last night because it just started too late for what I do as during my day. But I did watch the win on Saturday and the win on Sunday against Calgary and Edmonton, respectively. And the Rangers won Saturday night against Calgary 4-1. And really, we never looked back in that game. We took the lead, and it was the contest really wasn't. Henrik played great. He had a great game that night, and we just seemed to play very well against them. And I can tell you, there's been a long history against the Flames. That's not an easy place for the New York Rangers to win. We have difficulty beating them there, going back to a long time. It's a difficult place for us to win. So the last few years of note, though, we've done pretty well. We may have even played 500 against them.
Yep.
And that's good. So when you go on road, we got a 4-game road trip. We played 3 of them. If I come home 2-2, I feel pretty good. If you can play 500 hockey on the road in the NHL and do great at home, you'll make the playoffs.
In the Pacific time zone for sure too.
Yep.
That's a big adjustment.
To win those 3 games in the Western road swing was really amazing. And I watched the game Sunday night at Rogers Center or Rogers Place. I can't ever remember. I think it's Rogers Arena in Vancouver and Rogers Place in Edmonton.
Yeah. And
I watched it at Rogers Place, which is a beautiful arena. They did some panning around and showing the arena and everything. And of course, that is a state-of-the-art facility built for hockey in Edmonton. And it's beautiful. The fans there are blessed. So the final game was last night against Vancouver, which we won 7-2. And my wife actually watched that game, so I'll have to take her word for it. That
I was going to say, I was up working on my show notes that night or last night. I'm like, there's no way Steve is up this late. We're watching that game, knowing how.
Way. I was up at 3:30 this morning, so there's no way. But
yeah, knowing how early you go to bed or go to work, yeah.
But I got everything completed as far as the notes and stuff for the show. 7-2 was the win again. My wife said Henrik just played very, very well. So all in all, I'm very pleased. To win those 3 games is very, very difficult. I don't care who you are. I don't care if it's the Montreal Canadiens. If you have to play those 3 teams on the road in succession, 3 out of 4 nights, and you come away with 3 victories, that's extremely rare and very, very difficult to do.
Yeah, well, the Rangers are scary good this year, though. So I was not surprised at all to see them sweep. And speaking of the Canadiens, I believe the Rangers got them twice coming up, but we'll get to that. Or is it the Canadiens or
it's the Penguins?
The Penguins. No, it's Carolina that's got the Canadiens coming up. But anyway, we'll get to that later in the show.
Yes, sir.
The Bruins had a great week too.
They did.
3 wins against.
They did. They cracked the top 10 in my power rankings for sure.
Well, they're certainly climbing the standings. So, but at this point, they've now played more games than most of the other teams. So. Their inflated point total right now is looking, they've got almost everybody behind them's got a game or 2 in hand, so they could drop back down just simply by not playing games when the other teams are playing. So, but anyway, the Bruins got last week. They got on the 10th. They got a 5-2 win against the Blue Jackets, and I watched that game. That was a really good overall performance by everybody. Everybody played very well. I had no complaints with that one. They got a 2-1 win in Arizona on the 12th. That was Saturday night. And that was also a very good game all around. Tuukka played fantastic in that game. Arizona, even though they're towards the bottom of the standings, they could be a dangerous team with all that youth. And the Bruins have showed in the past that they have trouble against younger, faster teams, and they were able to keep Arizona off the scoreboard for the most part, and got out of there with a 2-1 win. And then they went into Colorado on the 13th. That was Sunday, and they beat them 2-0. And that was another great game. I didn't see that game because I was refereeing men's league, but I did in between games during that. While I was refereeing, I had the game on my phone, watching it on my phone in the locker room. So. So I was able to see little bits and pieces, and it was another stellar performance by Tuukka Rask.
Again, another great road. If you can win in Arizona and Colorado doing that two-step that they have, sometimes they throw in the Dallas Stars, but that's a difficult road trip to try and win 2-game, take 2. You know?
Certainly is.
Yeah.
So let's move on to Carolina. They had kind of a decent week as well. They're starting to put together some pretty good games. They did lose to Anaheim on the 10th. That was a 4-2 loss, and Anaheim just simply outplayed them in that game. And then they came back and beat. Of course, all these games. Well, the first 2 games were at home. They destroyed Nashville, a 5-1 game.
Yeah,
that was just.
Not
Nashville. I mean Washington.
Yeah.
I mean, even more of a surprise. Washington, such a good team that they are.
Yeah.
Now Washington didn't play Braden Holtby that game. They had their backup, and his name escapes me at the moment. He was in net that night, and but Carolina came out flying. They came out ready to play. Washington kind of came out flat, and Carolina took the game 5-1.
Yeah.
And then on the 15th, which was last night, I did watch that game. That was a 1-0 win against San Jose.
Yeah.
I talked about last week that my son and I were possibly going to go to that game, but I just had a little bit too much going on at home. We didn't make it to the game, but I did watch it on TV while I was working on some other things. And it was a good overall sound performance for San Jose. And again, San Jose played their backup goalie, but he still played very well. He only allowed 1 goal, but it was tied, no score going into the third. And then Carolina finally broke through, and Cam Ward, played very well in net and earned the shutout, his first shutout of the year.
Yeah, that was an impressive win, and I did think about you. I thought you maybe had went to that game, but I wasn't sure. I figured I might get a text or something if you had went. So
I would have definitely put up some pictures on social media. For sure.
Yeah.
We're still trying to get to our first game this year. It's just been really busy. Maybe definitely the 23rd of December we'll be there, because that's when the Bruins come to town. So.
Oh, okay. There you go.
So we'll be in the building for that one, but I'm hoping to make it to a game before then. But I got to pick and choose the games I go to. First, I got to be off from work and not have to go in super, super early the next morning. And then I also have to have the right tickets at the right prices.
Yeah, that's right.
The San Jose had $11 seats yesterday afternoon. It was so tempting to just pay $11 for upper bowl seats and just go to the game. But parking is still $15 or $20. So
I think they upped that to 20.
Is it 20 now?
Park your car there. You might as well go to the Carolina Ale House and walk it, hoof it.
Or the Backyard Bistro. Yeah.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Yeah.
$20 to park your car.
We used to do that. The kids and I, when we go to games, we'd park at the Backyard Bistro. We'd go have dinner there, and they would let you park the cars. But a couple seasons ago, they put a stop to that.
Did they really?
Apparently, people wanted to go to the restaurant during the game, and there was no place for them to park because everybody was parking there and walking over to the arena to save the parking fees. So I don't know if they've gone back to doing that again, but I've got to find another way to get around that parking charge. That's ridiculous, $20 when there's plenty. It's not like they're right in the middle of the city and there's no, like Boston, the rink is right in the middle of town.
Right.
And there's just no place to park.
Transportation. That's right.
Yeah. And
you know what's really, and President Obama, the last time the Blackhawks won the Stanley Cup, they brought a gift with them to the White House, and they gave him a lifetime parking pass to the United Center. He doesn't have to use it just to go to Blackhawks games. He can go see the Bulls play or whatever he wants, a concert or whatever. That's a pretty good gift.
Yeah, that's not bad for any event.
Their parking may be more than what the Hurricanes charge. I have no clue. I have no idea. But if you got a lifetime parking pass, all you got to do is show them your badge when you go in the gate. I mean, that's pretty good.
Well, with Obama, pretty much all he's got to do is show him his face, and
then
and they'll comp him. Yeah. Yeah.
That's good.
Being a celebrity has its privileges for sure.
Has its privileges. That's right.
All right, well, let's go ahead and talk about some of the other notable games from the week. These are games that don't include any of the three teams we just talked about. There was some pretty big games this week. The Minnesota Wild, who's having a big season, particularly in the last week or so, they beat Pittsburgh on the 10th at 4-2. That was a good game. And I believe Eric Stahl scored a goal in that game.
Yeah, Eric Stahl is a rejuvenated man in Minneapolis. He is Minneapolis-St. Paul. He is playing very, very well for them.
Yeah, he is.
He's having a good year. Good for him. Good for him.
Yeah. I'm glad to see that. I think the change of scenery was good for him.
Yeah.
One of the other games, Washington beat Chicago 3-2 in overtime. That was on the 11th. That was a game between two of the league's best right now. That one went overtime. Montreal beat Detroit 5-0. That was an original 6 and a divisional matchup. That was on Saturday night. That was, I believe, your Hockey Night in Canada game. I could be wrong on that.
But that game, what a Hockey Night in Canada was very good.
Yeah, and it wasn't very much of a close game, but Montreal right now, they're firing on all cylinders. Damn it. As San Jose beat Tampa Bay 3-1, and San Jose has kind of been playing up and down. Some nights they look like they're the team that went to the finals, and other nights they just can't do anything. But they beat Tampa Bay 3-1 on the 12th. Nashville shut out Anaheim 5-0 on Saturday night. That was also a Western Conference matchup against two teams that are expected to make the playoffs. And then probably the game of the week in terms of the teams that are at the top of the standings right now. Chicago beat Montreal 3-2 to hand them only their second regulation loss of the year.
And that game was at the United Center, isn't that correct?
I believe that was in Montreal, but I could be wrong.
Montreal?
I can pull it up.
You may very well be right. If they won that game like that in the Bell Center, that's a tremendous win for them.
It was in Chicago. You were right.
Yeah, I thought so.
Yeah. So I had it wrong on my sheet. So. But either way, a win over Montreal is always, right now anyway, as good as Carey Price is playing, is going to be a good game, a good 2 points to get.
That's
sure.
right.
All right.
Even though Al Montoya played in that game.
Did he? Okay.
Yeah, he started in that game.
Yeah, I didn't see the game. I wish I could have, but again, that was Sunday night and I was reffing, so I only saw the final on that one. All right, well, let's move on to some transactions. Really, there wasn't anything going on this week. I got a couple here or just one that I noted. There were no trades or signings this week, so no news there. But there was one that kind of caught my attention. Jakub Nakladal, who's playing here in Carolina, had his contract terminated by the Carolina Hurricanes on Monday. He played 3 games so far this season and was a -4 with no points. In just 14:30 in ice time. So he's basically playing that 6th, 7th defenseman role. He last played on November 8th against the Devils. So obviously he wasn't doing much for Carolina, but I wasn't aware that you could just terminate a contract like that.
I have the first question coming to my mind, and I had that down. Seems to me when you sign a contract, it is a binding agreement that both parties have to live up to. I don't understand. I'm not a lawyer.
Yeah.
So
unless he did something to breach that contract that would enable them to terminate it, that's the only thing I can think. I just don't know. They didn't give any details in the story that I saw, so I'm not sure what went on there. But he is no longer with the Hurricanes, and he's free to sign with anybody else. Another one that I saw, Seth Griffith, who was sent down to the minors by Boston, but had to pass through waivers. Toronto picked him up off of waivers. Well, this past week, Toronto waived him, and now he's free to play anywhere. Actually, I think he got picked up by somebody else. I can't remember who picked him up, but he's out there. And there's some people in the Boston podcast community that really like Seth Griffith and probably wanted Boston to pick him back up. But I mean, he's bouncing around right now, so he's obviously not a real strong prospect at this point. Mm-hmm. All right, well, let's move on to injuries, and there were quite a few, especially in the last day or so. Really,
that's right.
Let's start with Tampa Bay Lightning captain Steven Stamkos will be out indefinitely after tearing the lateral meniscus in his right knee during a 4-3 win at Detroit on Tuesday. We're in the process of evaluating options for repair and rehabilitation, Lightning general manager Steve Yzerman said Wednesday. Stamkos left the game in the first period after he fell awkwardly against the boards while killing a penalty. He was unable to put pressure on his right leg as he skated to the bench. He played 4 shifts and had 2:07 of ice time when that injury occurred. That is a huge loss for Tampa Bay.
It is.
For the second year in a row, they're going to lose him for a significant amount of time.
And it's all chemistry, and is the puck going in the back of the net for these guys? But, they did very, very well last year without Steven Stamkos. Can they do it again? Logic says they have the players and what in place to do it, but I'm telling you, to be without that guy, I had him down as the Rocket Richard. I believe I picked him as Rocket. It was either him or Vladimir Tarasenko, but I had Stamkos winning some honors.
Yeah,
the Hart Trophy might have been the Hart Trophy.
Oh, okay.
And so, that's a big loss.
Yep,
that's a big loss.
Yep, huge loss for them. All right, well, New Jersey Devils left wing Taylor Hall will miss 3 to 4 weeks after having successful arthroscopic surgery for a torn meniscus in his left knee on Wednesday. Hall did not play in a 2-1 overtime victory in the Dallas Stars on Tuesday after practicing with the Devils on Monday. He flew with the Devils to Dallas, but on Tuesday morning informed trainers something was bothering him, and he flew back to New Jersey for an MRI. That's a big loss for New Jersey. They made a big trade for him this summer.
Yeah.
For him to lead the offense on that team. And New Jersey's been off to a really good start this year, but
they're shocking me with how well they're doing.
Yeah.
I'm surprised at how well they're doing. But I don't know that will continue. I don't think they're for real, but they just got off to a great start. We'll see. I may be eating crow here. Yeah.
Well, we'll see how well they play without Hall because he's going to be out for a little while. All right, Calgary Flames forward Johnny Gaudreau will have surgery on Wednesday to repair a fractured finger sustained in the Minnesota Wild on Tuesday. There's no timetable for Gaudreau's return. It can be 4 weeks, it can be 6. You don't know, Flames coach Glenn Goulison said Wednesday. For me, it's just preparing for the worst case scenario. That's how it goes. We don't know anything on this injury until we hear from the doctors. We don't know the time frame. It could be less. It could be more. As a coach, when you're going through it, you think, okay, what are we going to put in place here to make sure we can get through this time? So Gaudreau left the game at 7:22 of the third period and didn't return after taking a slash to his hand. He scored a goal in the Flames 1-0 win. I didn't see the play. I didn't see the game. I don't know if you did, but
I didn't.
Do you know if the player who slashed him got penalized?
I did not read that in the article, whether or not I don't recall them mentioning anything about the player.
Yeah, this story just popped up today, so.
Yes, it did.
Yeah,
it's on NHL. The NHL.com just came on this afternoon.
Yep. All right. Well, Detroit Red Wings forward Darren Helm is out at least 6 weeks with a dislocated shoulder. Coach Jeff Blashill said Wednesday. Blashill said Helm doesn't need surgery. He'll be reevaluated. Helm was injured during a 4-3 loss to the Tampa Bay Lightning on Tuesday when he tumbled over Lightning defenseman Nikita Nesterov. So that was another one that came up today. And Helm is at least on the third, maybe fourth line. I'm not sure where he's playing.
Yeah, he's up there. How old is Darren Helm? He's got to be. He's been around for a while.
You got me on that one.
He's part of the old guard, wouldn't you say?
Yeah, he's there for sure. He's been around with that team for quite a while. So, all right. Defenseman Travis Hamonic will be in the New York Islanders lineup against Tampa Bay on Monday, or he played Monday. Hamonic sustained an upper body injury blocking a shot during a game against the Edmonton Oilers on November 5th, and it was expected to be out 4 to 6 weeks. Now, the reason I included this story is basically how fast it came back. I mean, we just reported last week that he was going to be out 4 to 6 weeks, and all of a sudden he's back.
Yeah, he's back. So obviously there was a misdiagnosis or a miraculous healing.
Yeah, or something.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, speaking of New York Islanders defenseman, Dennis Seidenberg is going to be out indefinitely and was placed on injured reserve Monday because of an upper body injury. Seidenberg was injured in the third period of the Islanders' 3-2 overtime loss to the Florida Panthers on Saturday when he was hit in the chin with a shot. He's been sporting a beard lately. You'd think the beard would have protected him on that one.
Yeah,
certainly guys like Joe Thornton and Brett Burns there in San Jose with the long beards they're sporting.
Yeah, they don't have any problem. They take a hit in the face and just keep right on chugging.
All right, it's like having a face pad. All right, Philadelphia Flyers goalie Michael Neuwirth will miss 4 to 6 weeks with a lower body injury. Neuwirth was injured during the Flyers' 3-2 win against the Minnesota Wild on Saturday. He stopped 6 of 7 shots during the first period, but didn't return for the second period. Steve Mason finished the game and earned the win because the Flyers did end up coming back and winning that game. So I think Neuwirth is the backup there anyway.
Yeah.
Carolina Hurricanes forward Brian Bickle has been diagnosed with multiple sclerosis and will be out indefinitely. Since the 2015 playoffs, I've been struggling to understand what was going on with my body, Bickle said in a statement released Friday. Again, during the past few weeks, it felt like something wasn't right. Obviously, this is a bit of a shock to my family and me, but I'm hopeful I will be able to return to the ice and continue playing the game that I love. Bickle, who's 30 years old, has 1 goal in 7 games so far this season. He was acquired from the Chicago Blackhawks on June 15th and has 3 Stanley Cup rings with Chicago. And there were a lot of quotes in the article from various members of the Hurricanes and Chicago Blackhawks organizations, and they're all pretty much saying the same thing. They're all thinking of him. They're hoping that he can get back to playing, and they're hoping for the best for him.
I did read another article subsequent to this disclosure that said he was going to be coming back to play soon, that he believed he would be coming back to play soon.
Well, now that they know what the problem is with him, they can treat it accordingly, and it might make it, at least for the next few years anyway, manageable enough that he can come back and play. But I'm not sure. I don't know a whole lot about multiple sclerosis, but I'm not sure what the long-term prognosis is for him. If that's a cure, I don't believe it's a curable disease, is it?
I used to have a professor in college that had it, to be honest with you, but I think it's something he's just going to have to live with. Yeah, I don't believe it's curable. No. Let's put it that way. There might be treatments that can alleviate it to a certain extent, but I don't think there's a cure for it. Yeah. Okay, Los Angeles Kings goalie Jeff Zatkoff did not return to start the third period against the Ottawa Senators at Canadian Tire Center on Friday. Zatkoff made 18 saves in his first game back since being injured during practice on October 23rd. He was replaced by Peter Budaj, with Los Angeles leading 1-0. So the LA Kings goaltending injury problems continue. Yeah, they are really, really suffering. And the only goalie who is, I guess, available right now is Peter Budaj. Yeah. So, and I don't know. I think Quickie's going to be a long time before he comes back, but. Yeah, they're not even talking anywhere close to him coming back. So, yeah. So LA's struggling some more. Yeah, no question about it. Detroit Red Wings forward Andreas Athanasiou was placed on injury reserve Friday with a lower body injury. Athanasiou, who's 22 years old, was injured in the first period of a 3-1 victory against the Vancouver Canucks on Thursday at Joe Louis Arena on a hit by Canucks defenseman Nikita Trimakin. MLive.com reports the injury is a sprained knee. The Red Wings recalled forward Anthony Mantha. Is that Mo Mantha's kid? You got me on that. I wouldn't be surprised. It could be. From Grand Rapids of the American Hockey League to take Athanasiou's place on the roster. All right, so normally we move on to suspensions and fines, and there were none this week that I know of. Did you see any? No, not that I'm aware of. Okay. I hope they find the guy that broke Johnny Gaudreau's finger. That's all.
I'm sure they can find them. There's nowhere to hide this day and age out there with all the cameras they use. All right. So with that done, we'll move on to milestones, records, and honors. And I didn't see any big milestones come across, and there weren't any records broken, but there were some honors this week. Tuukka Rask, Mark Scheifele, and Pekka Rinne were named the NHL's 3 stars for the week. Rask went 4-0-0 with a 0.75 goals against average and a .970 save percentage in 4 games with 2 shutouts to lead the Bruins to 4 wins in 5 games.
Incredible numbers.
That's an amazing week.
That is better than Jordan-esque play there, which I would attribute to somebody like Dominik Hasek.
Yep.
He's playing at the top of his game.
And at the end of the week, they were in second place in the Atlantic Division. Scheifele shared second place in the NHL with 6 points in 4 games to propel the Jets to 7 out of a possible 8 points in the standings, as well as second place in the Central Division. So he's been a big part of the Jets' rise. And then Pekka Rinne compiled a 3-0-0 record with a 0.67 goals against average and a .976 save percentage and 1 shutout to guide the Predators to 3 wins and 3 starts. Those numbers are even better.
Yeah.
It's just he did it in 1 fewer game. So kudos to those 3 guys for the week.
Yeah. Tremendous.
I hear a train going by.
Yeah, we have trains here in our neck of the woods. As a matter of fact, the tracks go right outside our house, not far from our house.
Yeah, I can hear it.
Yeah, I get the long trains, and I also get the North Carolina Express. The Acela or whoever those guys are.
And if that train is heading east, it will be coming through my town in about 20 minutes.
That's right. Yeah, no joke on that.
Yeah. All right, let's move on to other interesting stories that have gone on around the NHL this week. And some of these are kind of long, so bear with me. Brendan Shanahan, Matt Sundin, and Nicholas Lidstrom and Darryl Sittler among retired NHL greats who will play for the Detroit Red Wings and the Toronto Maple Leafs in the 2017 Rogers NHL Centennial Classic alumni game at Exhibition Stadium in Toronto on December 31st. Exhibition Stadium, isn't that where the Blue Jays used to play?
You're probably correct.
I think so.
Yeah.
I think so. Before they built the Sky Dome, or what is now Rogers. What is it? Rogers.
Gosh,
it's Rogers something or it's whatever the Sky Dome is what I still call it.
Yeah.
More than 40 retired players are scheduled to participate in the game, which precedes the 2017 Scotiabank NHL Centennial Classic between the Red Wings and the Maple Leafs on January 1st. The Centennial Classic is a rematch of the 2014 Bridgestone NHL Winter Classic, where a record crowd of 105,491 fans watched at Michigan Stadium in Ann Arbor, Michigan. And that game went to the Maple Leafs in a shootout, 3-2. And if you go to the show notes for this podcast, you can get a full list of all the players who will be playing. Okay, the next story, blindside hitting, the concussion spotter program, and the shootout were 3 topics that generated discussion and debate at the NHL General Managers meeting this past Tuesday. The GMs aren't eyeing any rule change recommendations now, but left the meeting with the intent to monitor those 3 aspects of the game, along with many others, as a way to prepare for more in-depth discussion when they meet again for 3 days in Boca Raton, Florida in March. This isn't a meeting where you make fundamental changes, NHL Commissioner Gary Bettman said. It's really more of an update. The GM specifically looked at hitting from the blind side and discussed the safety element of it, a reaction to a hit delivered by Toronto Maple Leafs center Nazem Kadri on Vancouver Canucks left wing Daniel Sedin on November 5th. Blindside hits are legal unless the main point of contact is the head and contact with the head is avoidable. General managers were split evenly between those who thought Kadri's hit was okay and those who felt that the type of hit should be removed from the game. The GMs went through a review of the new policy using unaffiliated concussion spotters to monitor each game from the player safety room in the New York office. They're trying to determine if goalies who have to relieve a goalie being pulled by the concussion spotter should be allowed time to warm up. Most recently, New York Rangers goalie Henrik Lundqvist came in for Antti Raanta in the third period of a 2-2 game against the Canucks on November 8th. He did not get any warm-up time and allowed 2 goals on 6 shots before Ronta returned, and the Rangers ended up losing 5-3. We talked about that last week.
We did. Is that the reason the Rangers lost? No, I don't know that you can say that, but Henrik was he literally skated off the bench into the crease, and 2 minutes later they dropped the puck less than that, a minute later.
Yeah.
So he got no time to practice or get ready whatsoever.
Well, years ago they used to allow when the goalies would come in, they used to allow warm-ups, but they put a stop to that quite a few years ago. But now it looks like that they're looking like they might make an exception. If a goalie is pulled by a spotter for concussion protocol, they might allow the guy coming in to get warm-ups. So Gary Bettman said you don't make changes in the middle of the season anyway, so we'll keep an eye on it, but we'll see how many times that happens and whether or not it needs to be addressed. The managers also discussed the legality of shootout goals, paying particularly close attention to the one scored by Florida Panthers center Vincent Trocheck on October 18th, a goal that led to a 4-3 win against the Tampa Bay Lightning. Trocheck lost control of the puck as he got in close, but the puck never stopped moving, and he regained control of it and scored. The question is whether the puck kept moving forward, which is part of the rule. There appears to be a movement among the GMs to look at amending the shootout rules in the international hockey rules, or to the international hockey rules, which would allow for the same shooter to continue taking attempts after the third round. St. Louis Blues general manager Doug Armstrong brought up the idea as a way to make the shootout more exciting, with the best shooters getting the opportunity for multiple attempts. Big surprise, the GM for St. Louis bringing up that idea, thinking, yeah, he can have Tarasenko go time after time after time after time.
Oh,
right?
can you imagine? He'll probably invent some shot where he lets the puck go off his stick for a minute with a little dipsy-do and back. And, I could see the goals flying in for the shootout for him.
If he gets to shoot over and over and over after the third round, yeah, any team that's got a great player like him will be for that rule change.
Yeah,
I've got to admit it, he said. It's entertaining, Fletcher said. We all remember at the 2014 Sochi Olympics with TJ Oshie, and I remember going back even further in the 2000 World Juniors. I think it was Peter Mueller versus Jonathan Taves. That was a lot of drama, and they kept scoring. It was great. Certainly something to consider. It's a good idea. All right, the next story. Hall of Fame induction ceremonies went on this week. They inducted Rogie Vachon, Sergei Makarov, Eric Lindros, and Pat Quinn. Pat Quinn went in the builder category. I didn't see the ceremonies, but it was good to see those four names getting in there. Rogie Vachon was a great player for a lot of years. He was relatively unknown because of all the years he played in L.A.,
right.
But he was a really good goaltender for a lot of years. And Sergei Makarov was one of the first of the wave of Russians to come over from the old Soviet Union. And had he come over at 18, 19 years old like the Russians do today, he would have there's a lot of speculation he could have challenged Wayne Gretzky for the scoring championship for all time. He was that good.
That's amazing.
But he didn't come over. He was well past 30 years old when he finally came over to play in the NHL.
Yeah.
And Eric Lindros, he was a guy that, in my opinion, changed the game.
Yeah.
He was the first real big player, with size and skill to come through. So some great names there to get into the Hall of Fame.
Yeah, I still remember that hit Scott Stevens laid on him.
Oh, God.
God, what a murderous hit that was. I'm telling you. I don't know that would have flew in today's hockey NHL, but that was one hell of a hit. That was one hell of a hockey play. I'm telling you.
Yeah. All right. Well, the Arizona Coyotes are going to be getting a new home. That was announced earlier this week. Gary Bettman said it will be a game changer for the franchise. That's what he said when they announced it on Monday. The Coyotes announced they're in plans with Catalyst Development Corporation, the master developer for the Arizona State University Athletic Facilities District, to work towards building a 16,000-plus seat arena with an attached 4,000-seat multi-sport facility in Tempe, Arizona. That seems kind of small, 16,000.
Yeah.
Most of the arenas being built around the league are 18,000 plus.
Yeah.
And in Canada, 21,000 plus.
Yeah.
Anyway, but a side note on Arizona State University, they just started a Division I hockey program there, so they're probably looking to get they'll probably play in that smaller 4,000 seat arena for most of their games anyway.
Right.
Bettman again said, I think first and foremost, it'll stop all the speculation as to what may or may not happen with the franchise. Secondly, it will, I believe, based on the locations I'm hearing about, ensure that from an attendance standpoint, this franchise can thrive, and I think will assure the long-term future of this franchise beyond a doubt. The plan is for the Coyotes to play in the main arena, with the attached second facility being used for Coyotes practices, Arizona State athletics, youth hockey practices and games, and so on, community events. Second phase of the project is expected to include a hotel in the area. The Coyotes have been playing at the Gila River Arena in Glendale since December 2003. And prior to that, they played at America West Arena in Phoenix after moving to Arizona from Winnipeg in 96. And they're expected to stay in Gila Arena until the new arena is built. And I've heard a lot about the Coyotes. Their attendance problems is due to the fact that that arena that they play in apparently is, I'm not familiar with Arizona or Phoenix area at all, apparently is because that arena is way out of the way for most fans.
I can't speak to that. It's in Glendale.
Yeah.
But I know that if you watch it on TV, it seems to me like an old arena, but I could be dead wrong.
Well, that arena, I do know that arena sits right next to the football stadium, and I've kind of hard to understand why, if it's such a problem for them to go to that arena for a hockey game, but it doesn't seem to be a problem for anybody to go to an Arizona Cardinals game.
Right.
But we don't live there, so I guess we can't speculate why
That's
it's
right.
a problem.
I know Gila River, the took over for the jobbing.com. It used to be jobbing.com arena.
Yeah.
Gila River is the big casino out there in the Phoenix area.
Yeah.
So,
and one of my Facebook friends says, move him to Hartford. He's been trying to get a team to go to Hartford for years.
Yeah. They might have to get another one now.
Yeah. Well, he's been trying to get the Hurricanes to go back to Hartford for years, but I'm like, no, don't take my hockey away from me.
Yeah.
I don't want to have to go to DC to watch a game.
That's right.
All right, our next story. A decision on NHL participation in the 2018 Pyeongchang Olympics likely won't drag past January, NHL Commissioner Gary Bettman said Monday. Whether it's January 1, 15th, or 20th, that's not the issue, Commissioner Bettman said. This isn't drifting into the spring, Commissioner Bettman, speaking during a one-on-one session with Gord Miller of TSN at Primetime Sports and Entertainment Conference, said the timetable is dictated by the league's need to put together its schedule for next season and the fact that International Hockey Federation and International Olympic Committee need time to come up with a contingency plan for men's ice hockey should the NHL not attend. I'm sure the Russian team will be very happy if the NHL doesn't attend. They'll have a chance at winning the gold at that point.
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
All right.
Unless Canada shows up with everything.
Yeah.
But,
all right. Longtime NHL defenseman Adrian Aucoin and Gary Suter are among the more than 20 former Chicago Blackhawks on the current roster for the 2017 NHL Winter Classic alumni game to be played against a team of former St. Louis Blues at Busch Stadium on December 31st. The roster also includes forward Grant Mulvey, the only Blackhawks player to score 5 goals in a game against the Blues on February 3rd, 1982. Defenseman Jack O'Callahan, a member of the 1980 Miracle on Ice team, and 3 players turned broadcasters, goaltender Darren Pang, Steve Conroy, and forward Troy Murray. And then they listed in the article the rest of the roster. I'm kind of surprised, especially where they had that. Did you see they had a one more shift for Savard night this week earlier for Chicago? Denny Savard. Yeah, they did a little celebration for Denny Savard earlier this week. He got in full dress and he went out there and skated and I think was out there for the national anthem as well. Kind of surprised Denny Savard doesn't want to play in that game, but I don't see his name on the list.
And where is Brett Hull?
True.
Where's Brett Hull?
They didn't announce any of the St. Louis players.
Okay.
This article only announced the Chicago players.
Okay.
So I guess St. Louis's team is to be determined, and they're probably still trying to convince Brett Hull to go.
Yeah,
I'd like to see Brett play against Bobby. Wouldn't that be something?
Yeah, that would.
Bobby in Chicago uniform and Brett. I don't know if Bobby's in the kind of shape to play anymore, but that would be kind of interesting to see Brett play against.
That would be a classic.
Yeah.
To see those two.
All right. Well, let's move on to this.
I tell you what, I had one other story.
Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
I wanted to interject if I could.
Yeah, go ahead.
Real quick. This was kind of an interesting little note, and I'll be real quick about it. Brian Rust of the Pittsburgh Penguins got a root beer named after him. It's called Rusty's Old Fashioned Root Beer. The root beer is the brainchild of the PLB Sports group, which brought the world Flutie Flakes and Grump's Hot Sauce, among other sports or athlete-related food products.
Those are two products that I highly endorse, being they're Boston guys.
And I'm a root beer fan. I think I told you. I'll drink an A&W root beer any day of the week plus Saturday.
Yep.
PLB Sports teamed up with Paul's Beverages and Giant Eagle stores to create Rusty's. The soft drink will be sold in 12-ounce bottles for $1.79 each. So all of you hockey fans out there in the Pittsburgh area, I'm sure, are very happy. And if you want to text our show and let us know how Rusty's old-fashioned root beer tastes, we would love to hear that.
So, yeah, for sure. So when we get together and have a party, we're going to have some Rusty's root beer for the kids and some Chum Red Ale for the adults, right?
Oh, that's good. That's good.
All right.
Very good.
All right. Let's move on to this week's edition of the Hockey Nuts. The dogs are going to play in here. I'm not going to play in here. All right. We're going to move on to this week's edition of the HockeyNuts.com power rankings for the NHL this coming week.
Yes.
And this week you came up with the top 10, so I'll go ahead and let you read it off. I just made my top 10 match yours.
Okay.
Week.
That was very kind of you. I don't know whether you agree with it, but certainly open to discussion. I realized that when I was looking at the show notes earlier that this looked to be exactly like mine, but I put Montreal, of course, at number 1. I moved Chicago up to number 2.
Fair,
simply,
yep, I agree.
Their record is it's better than the Rangers at this point. And I have New York dropping 1 slot to number 3.
Yep.
Pittsburgh is in at 4, moving down 1 slot from where they were last week. And then I moved Boston up to number 5. I don't know whether you agree with that, but they had a tremendous week, and I just see them playing very well. Tuukka Rask is having a great year.
Yeah, he is.
So they were the big mover for the week. Washington went from 5 to 6. Tampa Bay stayed where they were at number 7. Edmonton dropped a couple slots with the loss, and they had a lackluster week, I would say.
Yeah, they did.
Jersey jumped from 16 to 9. I put them in at 9. I think they're 5th in the Eastern Conference right now, so they're playing very well. Don't know how long that'll last.
Yeah, now that Hall's out.
Yep. And then the last big mover was Ottawa, coming from 15 to 10. Ottawa's really been playing well this year. They really haven't let up. They've been in the playoff. And this is November, so it's a long ways to go. But they've been in the top 8 since the season started. They have not wavered. They've been there the whole time. So that was my 2 cents on it.
And I would agree with the assessment on Ottawa because of mostly because of the play of Anderson in net. I mean, he's been, despite all his personal troubles that he's had to deal with, he's playing extremely well.
Yes, he is.
Very, very inspired hockey.
Yes, he is.
But yeah, I pretty much agreed with it. I don't know if I would have put Boston as high as 5. I think Washington is still playing better than them, but I went with your top 10, so we'll cement it in there for this week, and we'll see what happens. But some of the other notables, as always, you can hit the show notes to see the full total 30 rankings. But some of the notables that I've got, I also agreed with Edmonton dropping. New Jersey 9 is about as high as they're going to go with Hall being out. I don't see them going any higher than that, and in fact they'll probably drop. But I've got Columbus rising all the way up to 11.
Completely agree with that one too.
Because they've had a good week. Winnipeg's moved up quite a ways. I've got San Jose dropping down because they kind of had a lackluster week. Got St. Louis dropping quite a ways down, all the way down to 16 because they didn't have a very good week at all.
That's right.
And then Detroit I've got dropping 10 spots. Nashville moves up 5. LA moves way down. We had them at number 11 last week. I got them at 21 this week.
Yeah.
Just because they haven't been playing very well. Carolina, I've got moved out of the 29th spot up to 24 because of the pair of wins that they got this week.
Mm-hmm.
And then, Arizona and Vancouver, I've still gotten the bottom 2 spots for obvious reasons.
Yeah. I agree with it.
Anyway, check the show notes for the full 30 to see where your team falls. All right, well, let's look ahead to this upcoming week. The Bruins have 3 games this week coming up. They're going to be at Minnesota on the 17th. They're going to be at home against Winnipeg on the 19th and at home against St. Louis on the 22nd. I see these as 3 extremely difficult games, but all 3 teams they're playing are playing pretty well. St. Louis has faltered a little bit recently in the last week or so, but they're still a very, 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 very strong team.
Yes, they are.
So that
is a heck of a week you got coming up.
Yeah,
it really is. If you can get 2 wins in that, you're doing great.
I'll be happy with 2 out of 3 with that one. Yep. How about the Rangers?
The Rangers finish out a road trip with Columbus on Friday night. Then they come back to the Garden, play 1 game against Florida. Then they head to Pittsburgh for the start of a home and home. So we really don't get a break because Columbus is playing very, very well now. And those 4 games, I mean, it hasn't let up for us. I'm really surprised.
No, they've been playing a lot of strong teams.
And I haven't heard that. I'm really surprised how well we're playing because we've been playing top notch teams the whole way through this, and that home and home with Pittsburgh really kind of has my interest and my concern.
Yeah,
that's a team that if
you can get a split,
friends, if you can split with them, be happy.
Yep.
Oh, be happy with the 1-1 on that.
Take the 2 points and run for sure.
That's right.
But the way Florida has been kind of struggling recently, they should be able to put them away, and Columbus as well.
Mm-hmm.
So
yeah.
All right. Well, Carolina has a pretty busy week this week. They've got Montreal on the 18th, and that's in Carolina. And I looked at tickets for that game, and they're starting at like almost $30. So there must be a lot of Canadiens fans coming into town for that one.
Oh yeah, yeah, there will be. And they're always you hear where and the same thing with Toronto. This is true. They'll grab a flight from Toronto or from Montreal.
Yep.
They'll fly down to Raleigh, stay in a hotel, go to the game, and it's cheaper. At least they say than going to the game in Toronto.
Yep. And I've heard the same thing. I was actually in line. It was a couple of seasons ago. I was in line waiting to get in the door one night. They were playing Toronto, and the people behind us were all wearing Toronto gear. So I got talking with them, and they had flown down from Toronto, and it was like 3 or 4 guys that flew down, and they basically said, yeah, we come down, we bring our golf clubs, so we come down, stay the weekend, come to the game, play a couple of rounds of golf, fly back home. They said that it's a great little getaway for them, and they end up breaking even essentially with plane tickets and hockey tickets, and they get a little golf in because they can't play golf in January up there. So
absolutely astounding. Absolutely astounding. And it's the same thing with Montreal.
Yep.
I've heard they could do the same thing.
So that would explain why the tickets for the Montreal game are a little bit higher than some of the other games that we see around. But anyway, that's their first game this week. They got Winnipeg at home again on the 20th. I mean, and then they fly to Toronto on the 22nd, and then they go right back to Montreal on the 24th and play them. That's Thanksgiving Day. So we'll have probably a CBC nationally televised game on Thanksgiving Day, even though it's not Thanksgiving for Canada. They still kind of celebrate it because the United States is completely shut down that day. So. And the Bruins do have a game on Thanksgiving Day as well. I didn't note it on the upcoming schedule, but I did notice. I believe the Bruins are playing the Ottawa Senators on Thanksgiving Day. So I'll have a game to watch on Thanksgiving Day.
Yes, you will. We play Friday. We play the day after Thanksgiving against the Flyers. It's the NBC covers it.
I saw this. I saw the commercial for that. They're billing it as a after you come home from battling all the people in the stores, you get to watch a battle on the ice with the Rangers and the Flyers.
Yeah, and I believe that's in Philadelphia, so that will be a great game.
Yeah. All right. So other notable games of the upcoming week, I've got Edmonton, Dallas on the 19th. Two teams against very high-powered offenses. Toronto, Montreal. That's always a great game to watch because of the rivalry between those two teams. Columbus, Washington. That's two teams playing very well. Playing on the 20th. Battle of the red, white, and blue teams. Chicago and Edmonton. The old guard against the new guard in the Western Conference. Tampa Bay, Nashville. That is a game against Nashville should be a strong team, and they're showing signs of becoming one.
Of coming back, yes.
Yeah, so that should be a good game to watch. The Devils, San Jose, as good as the Devils are playing. I'm not sure that one's going to have the marquee following now that Taylor Hall's out, but I put that one in the show notes. St. Louis, Washington, that's going to be a game against two very strong teams as well. And then what could be a foretelling of the Western Conference Final, Chicago, San Jose. They're playing on the 23rd.
What a game that will be.
So those are probably the biggest, or at least the ones with the most interest in my mind, other than the games involving our teams anyway, coming up this week.
Agreed.
All right. So let's move on to some college hockey talk, shall we?
Let's do that.
All right. First and foremost, I'm going to start with my Maine Black Bears because they got a win this weekend against number 5 UMass Lowell. Now they ended up.
Great team.
UMass
Lowell always good.
Yeah. They ended up splitting the series with them, but hey, to beat the number 5 team at least once, with Maine having virtually no expectation this year, that gives them 2 big wins against ranked teams because they beat Quinnipiac earlier this year as well. So, that's Maine's showing signs of being a decent team, and they're certainly a difficult team to play against in most nights, particularly in their own building. But I don't know, It's frustrating to see them win like that, and then they come out the next night and lose 4-1. So to the same team.
Well, UMass Lowell's good. That much I can tell you. They're always good.
Yeah, they are. But the win over Lowell did propel Maine up the pairwise rankings. They were 40th before the weekend. Now they're 33rd. So they're still way out of the national picture, but at least they're climbing anyway.
That's right.
All right, our next story. Notre Dame and Northeastern skated to a 0-0 tie through 2 periods of play before the Zamboni broke down, and subsequent problems with the ice conditions forced the game to be suspended on Sunday afternoon at Matthews Arena. When one of the Northeastern Zambonis broke down in the left corner of the ice, that portion of the ice was unable to freeze. After a delay, the ice was eventually deemed unplayable. The teams will attempt to make up the third period later in the season at a date to be determined if scheduling allows. So, as a Zamboni driver, I can tell you this is your worst nightmare. Having the Zamboni break down, and I guarantee you the guy on the Zamboni panicked, didn't shut the water off, so water's pouring out of the back of the Zamboni, and he's sitting still, so the big puddle of water is just expanding and expanding and expanding, and or if the conditioner was still on the ice, because of the friction of the blade, because the conditioner itself, it's like a giant razor blade that shaves the ice, right? Mm-hmm. So that blade gets hot as it's shaving, due to the friction. So if the Zamboni comes to a complete stop while the Zamboni is in operation, the blade starts melting into the ice, and it creates just a huge mess. It'll just create a big slot in the ice, and it'll melt all the way down to the floor if you leave it there long enough. So that's probably what happened, if you ask me. Without seeing exactly what happened, I bet that's what happened. Wow. Is it became a repair that they just couldn't fix. So they essentially postponed the game. So
I had 2 questions.
Yeah.
Is Matthews Arena the oldest arena where they play college hockey in?
It is. Yep. Boston Bruins played there before they built the Garden. The old Garden, not the one they're in now. The old Boston Garden. Before that, they played in Matthews Arena. It had a different name before that. I can't remember what it was, but yeah, it had it's a very old arena. One of the oldest in the country, for sure.
The second question was, okay, it's a 0-0 tie after 2 periods. Will they then call that, say they can't get back together to play the third period for the rest of the season? Will they call that game at 0-0, or will they just take one less game on the schedule?
It will probably be there's a couple different ways they've handled it in the past. if it becomes that the game doesn't matter in the standings, they just won't bother to replay it. If it gets towards the end of the season and they determine that that game is important in the standings, they're going to find a way. They'll wait until, because Notre Dame's in Hockey East, they're going to come to Boston to play. I mean, there's a bunch of teams right around there. You got UNH less than an hour away. You got BC and BU right there in the city, just blocks away from Northeastern. They'll just wait until a weekend where they're playing one of those teams. And, of course, if they're not scheduled to play, sounds like they're not scheduled to play at Northeastern again this year. So they'll just wait until they come into town to play one of those other teams. And then either Thursday night or Sunday afternoon, because generally it's Friday, Saturday games for Hockey East games. Either Thursday night or Sunday afternoon or Sunday night, they'll come and play that third period and finish that game while they're in town. That's what I expect will happen.
Very interesting.
All right. So I've got a list of some of the upsets. I figured, while we're talking about college hockey every month or every week, that we could list some of the upsets that happened every week. And these would be upsets. What I would deem an upset is when either a lower ranked or an unranked team beats a team in the top 20.
Yes.
Or it could be a tie if it's an unranked team beating a highly ranked team. So here are the games that kind of jumped out at me. Number 6, North Dakota tied number 2 Denver 1-1 on Friday. But I believe Denver came back the next night and won the game. St. Lawrence, who's unranked, tied number 16 Union on Friday. And then again, Union, I believe, came back the following night and beat St. Lawrence. Colgate beat number 19 Yale 4-1 on Friday. That was a big one.
Yeah.
In fact, Yale's listed a couple of times as getting beat this week, so they might drop out of the standings next week. Western Michigan beat number 1 Minnesota Duluth 4-3 on Friday. That was a huge upset because Western Michigan's unranked.
That's Andy Murray coaching in Western Michigan.
Yep. Michigan Tech beat number 20 Lake Superior 6-1 on Friday, and then again 4-2 on Saturday.
Wow.
So that's probably why Lake Superior is number 20. They were higher than that in the rankings last week. Number 18 Michigan beat number 4 BU 4-0 on Friday. That was a surprise, knowing all the talent BU has. Clarkson beat unranked Clarkson beat number 16 Union 3-1 on Saturday. So that's 2 losses for Union on the weekend to unranked teams. Cornell beat number 19 Yale 6-3 on Saturday. That was the other Yale loss. Number 15 Bemidji State beat number 11 Minnesota State 2-1 on Saturday. So that was a mild upset, being both teams are ranked fairly close together. And then I added this game on there because of the nature of the game. Arizona State, who's playing Division I. I believe this is their first season in Division I. I believe it is their first season in Division I this year. They beat UNH, and us Maine fans don't call them University of New Hampshire. We call them University of No Hardware because UNH has never won the national championship, and of course, one of Maine's national championships came at the hands of UNH. So Maine fans always love to.
University of No Hardware. I like that one.
University of No Hardware. And Arizona upset them, even though UNH is unranked. It's still a huge win for a fledgling program like Arizona State to come up into Durham, New Hampshire, and beat them on their own ice. And then Arizona State went into Boston the next night, and they only lost to number 3 BC 3-1 on Saturday night. So, even though it was a split for Arizona State, it's huge weekend for them to play as well as they did against Hockey East opponents. All right, let's finish our college hockey talk with the top 10 for this week. At number 10, I've got Penn State. Number 9, Notre Dame. Number 8, North Dakota. Number 7, Minnesota. Number 6, I've got UMass Lowell. Number 5, Boston University. Number 4, Quinnipiac. Number 3, Boston College. Number 2, Minnesota Duluth because of their loss. And then our new number 1 this week, the Denver Pioneers, coached by Maine Black Bear alum Jim Montgomery.
Yeah, isn't that something?
Yep.
I did not know that.
Yep. So, and of course, again, no love for the UMaine Black Bears this week in the national poll. All right. Well, let's move on to our KHL minute.
All right.
All right, I'll go ahead and throw mine out there.
Okay.
CSKA boss, Dmitry Kvartalnov. I don't know if you remember that name.
No.
You're not a Bruins fan, so you wouldn't. He's a former Boston Bruin player. He played years ago for the Bruins. Not very long, but he did play them. Dmitry Kvartalnov had never seen his Army men lose against Lokomotiv in 6 previous encounters, but a freakish blunder from defenseman Mikhail Nemenkov and a late goal from Denny Mosalayov. God, these names. Shattered that streak. They condemn CSKA to a second consecutive loss since the international break, and just as Podolsk on Wednesday, the Red and Blues gave up a lead on the way to defeat. So the notables there in that game was obviously, CSKA had owned Lokomotiv for the past 6 games that they've played each other, and they finally broke that streak. But I don't know if you remember Lokomotiv. That was the team that suffered that plane crash a few years back and lost everybody. The whole team.
I do remember. That was Lokomotiv. Okay.
Yeah, that was Lokomotiv that had that plane crash. And they lost everybody. There's a lot of former NHL players on that team, and tragic happened.
Brad McCrimmon from the Philadelphia Flyers. You remember?
Yep.
He passed away in that plane crash.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, they lost everybody on board. So that was the entire team, the coaching staff, and a few of the upper management. So that team had to completely rebuild its franchise. They took that season off because that happened right in the preseason or very early in the season. And then they folded for the rest of that season, then came back the following season. They've been playing ever since. But it's good to see Lokomotiv having some success against the top teams in the KHL.
Now that I know that, I agree with you.
Yep. Yeah. All right, well, we'll move on to yours then.
Mine involved a notable NHL player that if you follow the league with any regularity whatsoever, you know who he is. Ilya Kovalchuk recorded his 250th KHL point at the start of the game that was recently played by his team, SKA St. Petersburg. In all, Covey had a goal and 3 assists in their emphatic win 9-0 over Boris Astana. It's the biggest win of the season for the team. The win was SKA's 15th consecutive victory, moving SKA to within 3 games of Avangard's KHL record winning streak of 18, set in the 2010-2011 season. During these 15 games, SKA has scored 75 goals and conceded just 11. So it's reasonable to say they are the powerhouse in the KHL this year.
Yeah, it'll be tough for anybody to beat them, my God.
That's Oli Narok's team.
15th consecutive win.
15th.
So next week we might be talking about a league record.
You might be talking about a league record, and if that is the case, we ought to have the same KHL minute. We can talk about it together.
Talk about that team again. 75-11 goals.
Yeah, absolutely incredible. So and Ilya Kovalchuk, of course, is playing out of his mind. And then I heard that so is Pavel Datsyuk. So NHL fans will know this team very well, and I think once again we both agree the KHL is probably the second best league in the world, and they've got a lot of exciting reasons why.
Yep, that's definitely a fair assessment for sure. Okay, well, let's go ahead and move on to our picks of the week.
Yes, sir.
And while you're talking, you might as well go ahead and continue.
I'll be glad to. Mine is hopefully I will try not to make it lengthy. But it involves a story I read on NHL.com regarding Vernon Fiddler, who now plays for the New Jersey Devils. And he reunited with his biggest fan. The article titled, Vernon Fiddler of the Devils Reunites with His Biggest Fan. Chloe Brown has been saving her quarters since July 1st, and she gets a quarter each day for doing various chores around her house from her mom. She saved each quarter to buy a ticket to the game between the New Jersey Devils and the Dallas Stars. The Dallas Stars was her favorite team.
That's a lot of quarters.
That's a lot of quarters. That was played last Tuesday at 8:30, and I do not have the outcome of that game with me right in front of me. But that's the only game her favorite player, Vernon Fiddler, would be coming to town. And the Devils center, Vernon Fiddler, is the only game that he'd be in town. And her mom said she's been saving quarters for that since he signed with New Jersey on July the 1st of this year. She even saved up enough to buy a puck, which she bought at the Dallas Stars gift shop. Chloe and Fiddler have a special relationship dating back to his time when he was with the Stars. He has an organization, he and his wife, called Fid's Kids, which began when he played with them. And through a partnership with the Make-A-Wish Foundation of North Texas, Fiddler donated 12 tickets for each home game.
Wow.
To local children. And that's how he met Chloe. And during a game one time, he was able to toss a puck over the glass to her mom, which she gave to Chloe. And of course, that changed her life. She has become a hockey fanatic. Her room is completely decorated with all kinds of Dallas Stars memorabilia. And I know how that is. As a kid, I had all kinds of Rangers memorabilia in my room.
Yep.
But to make a long story short, she when he was traded away, it almost broke her heart, and she has had an acute battle with lymphoblastomic leukemia during most of her life. She's had to have 2 different times in her life when she had chemotherapy treatments, and of course that's part of Vernon Fiddler's organization. They of course have special needs children as part of what he has come to the game, which I think is a great thing that he's doing. She's a girl that has inspired a lot of people in Dallas, Fiddler said. She's battled a lot in her young life, more than she ever should have. So when he was traded, of course, they hooked up on FaceTime. And I'm not sure how that happened. The story didn't make mention of it. But he did call her and promise her that he would bring a New Jersey's Devils T-shirt when he came to the game this past Tuesday night.
Wow.
So when he came there, he, of course, gave her his signed jersey and said, start pulling for the Devils now instead of the Dallas Stars. Don't know whether that's going to happen. I didn't read that.
Hey, I bet she will.
But he said she's a special fan of mine, and that's the plan, to bring her the jersey and get her changing over to root for the Devils. She's a great little kid, and it's always nice to see her smiley face. So it really touched me, and Vernon Fiddler, again, showing the NHL leads the way on so many of these things.
Yep.
With kids, they really care, and That's a great story. Thank you.
All right. Well, my story, I've got Peter Bondra was in the news this week. He scored 503 goals and had 892 points during his 16-season NHL career. Yet the world-class offensive talent may have met his offensive match while teaching hockey in the United Arab Emirates. Yeah, you heard that right.
Yeah,
you heard that right. We're talking, this is Dubai, all right? This is where, way out in the desert of the Middle East. I had no idea they were playing hockey there.
Yeah.
Bondra, who scored 472 of those goals for the Capitals, met Fatima while representing the Capitals and coaching Pavlikovsky Hockey School program at the Zayed Sports Ice Rink in Abu Dhabi on Sunday and Monday.
Absolutely incredible.
The school is designed to help youth players with their skills. I'm excited to help grow the game in the United Arab Emirates and use my experience to teach young hockey players in the region, Bondra told the Capitals website on Tuesday. The opportunities to host these types of clinics around the globe will promote the growth of hockey and the Capitals. Fellow Slovakians and former NHL players Richard Littner and Miroslav Shatan are in Abu Dhabi with Bondra for the clinic. So that was pretty kind of the story itself isn't so much a big deal. And of course the article includes little videos of this young female hockey player, Fatima, doing these stick tricks.
Oh, wow. I didn't see that.
Yeah.
I saw the article.
Yeah,
but I didn't see the video.
Yeah, if you click on they're just short little 10-second clips of her, flipping the puck around and going in on a breakaway and making some moves. So it's good to see hockey's being played, in places like that.
Absolutely incredible.
In the middle of the Middle East. So if we ever get relocated to the United Arab Emirates, we can still play anyway.
They do have rings.
Yeah, there, or it's at least one anyway.
Yeah. That's
All
really
right.
something.
Well, did you have anything else you wanted to add to the show before we close it out?
Nothing other than to say another great time with you, Wayne. It was great to be with you this evening and talk hockey, the greatest sport in the world.
All right. All right. Well, before we close the show, let me remind everybody you can visit our website at hockeynuts.com. You can email the show if you want to give us feedback. We're at feedback@hockeynuts.com. You can leave a voicemail on the show at 919-960-1718. You can tweet me. I'm at Wayne Halley 9, and you can tweet Steve at sball504man. You can Facebook us at facebook.com/thehockeyknuts. And of course, we have the YouTube channel where we broadcast our recording of the show each Wednesday night. And a bit of a note on that, next week, because of the holiday here in the U.S., we are going to record one night early. We're planning on recording Tuesday night. So if you want to watch us live on the YouTube channel, you can come over on Tuesday night about the same time as we are tonight. Can't remember if we're doing 6 or 8. I can't remember what we talked about.
Yeah,
I think it was 8, wasn't it?
I think it was 8. Yes, sir.
So 8 o'clock Eastern on next Tuesday night, we'll be recording our next episode of the podcast, and you can catch us there. And of course, links to everything, all the spellings and everything that I just said are in the show notes for this podcast, so you can go ahead and catch us there. So unless you have anything else to add, we'll go ahead and wrap it up.
No, I look forward to seeing you again on Tuesday night of next week, Wayne.
All right, we'll talk
Good
to
luck
you
to your
then.
Bruins.
Yeah, good luck to your Rangers. All right, have a good week.
You too, sir.